Do you remember that old board game Risk? I do, not because I was very good at it, but because of the fact that it made me aware of the existence of places like Kamchatka. Remember Kamchatka? Today's episode, like Risk, is all about risk. And so we're going to ask the cards a question and find out what Life's Potluck Buffet has to say. I'm John Paulus. Thanks for joining me today. Okay, so today's questions for the card are how to think about risk and how to think about risk management. And this applies to just about everything, nothing in particular, but everything in particular. And so I'm going to shuffle the cards and see what card appears, what the deck has to say about risk and risk management. Okay, here we go. So I'll do my usual ritualistic shuffling of the cards 3 times. The casual way. I'm going to call it casual shuffling, where you just kind of take some cards from the front and back and reorder them. And then I'm going to shuffle in the way that you probably think of when you think of the idea of shuffling, but I'm going to do it away from the microphone. You know why? Okay, so I have shuffled them. And now, I look for a place in the cards where there's a gap because that tells me how confident the cards are, where I should head to, and also, so this one is a very small gap. Let me see if I can get it again. Yeah, I'm trying to be very careful to make sure I get the exact card that's in the gap. Yeah, that's it. Okay, here we go. What card do we have? Be like a good novelist, show, don't tell. So be like a good novelist, show, don't tell. It's card number 4 in the Life's Potluck Buffet card deck. Instead of using words to describe your work, create a project that you show others, meet people of a specific work community related to it, ask friends, acquaintances, or family to introduce you to people, sign up for an email list, or join a communication platform of that community. Interact with people in it. Okay. So that is our prompt for today's question. How to think about risk and risk management. Well, I think this is, as always, this is a good card to draw. The cards, they're magic because there are here several ways, and we're talking about how to manage risk here. This card has within it several ways, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those. And I'll start with the idea of showing and not telling, right? And that this is an old idea in writing, right? When a novelist writes a dialogue or when a novelist writes a description, the goal is to, have the reader be brought in a way that the reader's making connections and sees what's going on, right? That's the showing part, as opposed to explaining to the reader in a very clinical way that's not novelistic and also not very effective what's going on, right? It gets boring if you're like just describing a situation, and then he was anxious about this. And here's why, if you, instead of saying that a character was anxious about something, you show the anxiety through the speech and actions of the character so that the reader says, wow, this character is anxious about something, right? So that the reader gets it, as opposed to you saying to the reader, hey, reader, the character's anxious. Because when you say that, there's not much work for the reader to do, and that makes reading uninteresting. Right? It's always important to remember that when you're writing, that the point of this is to make it interesting for the reader. And, I think about people who have thought about these things and what they've said, and what they say is the reader has to be bringing enough to it that they still want to stick around. It's like a game, right? You know, the reader, you know, the writer, you as a writer are playing a game with the reader. And if the game is too ridiculously hard for the reader, so that they're like, this isn't fun, I'm just going to go away, then that's, perhaps not doing your job as a writer. But if you have just the right amount, and I think that's what we find in a lot of really compelling writing, is that the audience, and this is specific to your audience, the audience and the target audience for the writing has exactly the right amount of challenge. It's challenging, but it's not so challenging that they're going to be like, I'm leaving this. It's also not spoon feeding. Like, that's the telling, not showing, right? That's when you're saying this character is anxious, right? As opposed to showing that in the character's actions, words, and how you describe the character's actions and words, not how you just label them as something, right? So it's a difference between description and just mere labeling of things, right? Because you are describing something, right? You're writing about it, but you're doing it in such a way that's not labeling it, and that's the showing, not telling thing, right? Is show in writing. So that's the overall theme in terms of risk here, is that you are understanding what is going on through signals that you're getting from whatever you're analyzing the risk of. Okay, so it's this novelistic thing, like reading a good novel, because that's how the world works, like good novels, and vice versa. So being able to read the signs, that's stage one. So the novel part, okay, that's part one. Two is creating a project that relates to this risk. So this is actually doing something about the risk. That's what this is saying. It's saying action in regard to the risk. And I think there's a lot of stuff. I know there's a lot of stuff on YouTube and on the internet and in books and in talks and all of this about, kind of very a very schematic description of risk response. And, you could run away from the risk, you could transfer the risk. You've heard all of this stuff before. In the world of Life's Potluck Buffet, those really aren't options. The options here are to understand first what the risk is. That's understood. We know that. But to read it like a novel, because then you're getting at the real heart of it. And then to do an action that appropriately shows to others what the risk is and what the solution to the risk is. And that could be any number of things based on your best judgment, of course, right? There's no formula here. We know there are a range of responses to risk, and your best judgment is what is the best response we can do. And then having that best judgment after we understand the risk and have an action that is a response to the risk, not in a reactive way necessarily, but in a measured way that is acting in understanding and in the right measure towards what the risk is. And then the people are involved, right? And I don't think the card is saying reduce risk by distribution. That's a big, that's one of the standard models of risk management, right? Is to distribute the risk, transfer the risk through individuals, people, groups. In the case of, I think of insurance and things like that, where like there's the risk is transferred. Now, this again, this is not this. All these things have nothing to do with Life's Potluck Buffet, so I don't want to go too far down that path. But the reason for the people being present in the risk here is they're a support, right? This, in a way, is not distributing the risk, saying, oh, yeah, well, I have a risk, so therefore I'm going to pawn some of this risk off on somebody else who's a friend or, whoever. That's not the way to handle risk in Life's Potluck Buffet thinking, right? In the philosophy of Life's Potluck Buffet and practice, the way to handle that risk is to actually talk to others, understand your response through conversation with others. And that is the third and most important part of risk. As always, the people are the most important because people are the ones who help us manage risk, and not because they're taking on the risk for us, but because the support that we get as human beings connecting with other people, and that the support and love and care that those people provide for us and that we provide for them. And that is the greatest risk management technique of all. Togetherness and hanging together when things are risky, and understanding who's with you and how they're with you and who you're with and how you're with them. It's human relations. All right. So that is what the card is telling us about risk management. Number one, read the situation like a novel. Understand what's behind the words and actions of people. Not necessarily what people are saying literally, because that might be a red herring. That might be that's not where it is. Looking underneath, and this goes for data too. Looking behind the data, right? Not what the data is necessarily saying, but what is trying to get at an understanding of why the data is saying what it's saying and how. And then two, thinking of a solution to that risk, understanding yourself, understanding what you need to do, what action needs to be taken in response to that risk. And three, having support and love and care and togetherness with others. Not risk transference to others, but community. So keep those things in mind when you're thinking about risk, and let me know what your strategies are for risk management. I'd love to hear them. I hope you have a great day, and I hope it's full of rewards and some challenging risks that you overcome. So have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow on Life's Potluck Buffet.